was reading that text for the third time, but the words hadn't changed. Dad, I need you to respect my decision. Claire and I have decided it's best if you don't attend the wedding. She feels uncomfortable with your presence, and I need to put my wife first. Please understand. My wife first. He wasn't even married yet, and already he was calling her that. I'm Robert Chen, 62 years old, and I've spent the last 35 years building something truly special from absolutely nothing. I arrived in Vancouver back in 1989 with just $200 in my pocket and a dream that, honestly, probably seemed utterly foolish to everyone who knew me. But today, I'm proud to say I own 4 thriving restaurants across British Columbia. My flagship, Chen's Kitchen in downtown Vancouver, even earned its 2nd Michelin star just last year. Yet, at that moment, sitting in my office above that very flagship location, none of that success mattered. My son had just uninvited me from his wedding. I gently set my phone down on my desk. It was the same desk where I'd patiently taught Nathan to do his homework after school, all while I prepped for the frantic dinner service ahead. His mother, Susan, had tragically died when he was just 8 years old, a victim of a drunk driver on the Trans-Canada Highway. For 2 decades, it had been just the 2 of us, a team. Now, it felt like it was just me. The office door quietly opened, and James, my reliable sous chef, poked his head in. Chef, the Cisco delivery is here, and they're saying the halibut order is wrong again. I sighed. I'll be down in a minute. He hesitated, looking at me with concern. You okay, boss? You look like someone died. Perhaps someone had. Perhaps the son I knew, the one I'd raised, had died somewhere along the way. I'm fine, I told him, forcing a smile. Give me 5 minutes. Once James left, I picked up the phone again and scrolled back through our messages. It had been 6 months of watching my son slowly, almost imperceptibly, disappear into someone else's life. It all began last March at the Vancouver Food and Wine Festival. Like every year, I'd bought a table for the charity gala, and Nathan came with me. He was 28 then, a smart kid, working as a marketing director for a tech startup downtown. Good head on his shoulders. Or so I believed. That's where he met Clare Westwood. She was working the event, introduced to us as a volunteer coordinator for the charity. She was tall, blonde, and possessed an elegance that seemed almost rehearsed. When Nathan introduced us, her handshake was surprisingly cold, literally cold, as if she'd been holding ice. Her smile, I noticed, never quite reached her eyes. Mr. Chen, she said, her voice smooth. Nathan has told me so much about you. The restaurant empire, the Michelin stars. You must be very proud of what you've built. Something about the way she said built made it sound less like a compliment and more like an accusation. I'm proud of my son, I replied, choosing my words carefully. The restaurants are just work. Her smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Nathan, on the other hand, was absolutely beaming. I hadn't seen him look at anyone like that since his high school girlfriend, and that relationship, I remembered, had ended quite badly. He was holding Claire's hand, as if she might simply evaporate if he let go. Over the next few weeks, I watched the transformation unfold. At first, it was subtle, small things. Nathan started missing our sacred Sunday dinners. That tradition had been a cornerstone of our lives since Susan died. Every Sunday at 5, no matter what, we would have dinner together. Sometimes at the restaurant, sometimes at my house in West Vancouver, sometimes at his apartment in Yaletown. But now it was, sorry, Dad, Claire and I are going to Whistler this weekend. Or, Dad, Claire got us tickets to the theatre. Can we reschedule? Or even, Claire's not feeling well. I should stay with her. It was always Claire, Claire, Claire. Then the bigger changes began. Nathan had always been careful with money. Not cheap, mind you, just sensible. Growing up, watching me struggle had deeply ingrained in him the value of $1. But suddenly, he was talking about an extravagant trip to Paris, a week in Tuscany, even a weekend in New York to see Hamilton. Claire's always wanted to see Europe, he explained to me over coffee one morning in late April. We were at a cafe near his office. It was becoming the only way I could manage to see him anymore, grabbing a quick lunch during his work hours. That sounds expensive, I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. It's worth it, Dad. You only live once, right? Besides, Claire's had a tough life. Her family lost everything when she was young. She deserves nice things. I wanted to ask how someone who'd lost everything could afford to be so incredibly selective about which restaurants were good enough, which hotels were acceptable, or which wine was worth drinking. But I bit my tongue. Just be smart about it, Nathan, I advised. Don't spend money you don't have. He laughed, a little too dismissively. Dad, you sound like you don't trust me. I'm 28 years old. I make good money. Let me live a little. In May, just 3 months after they'd met, he told me they were engaged. 3 months. Don't you think that's fast? I asked, unable to hide my concern. When you know, Nathan declared, his jaw set in that stubborn way that instantly reminded me of his mother, Susan. Claire is the one, Dad. I've never been so sure of anything in my life. I just think you should take your time, I suggested, trying to be reasonable. Get to know each other better. Maybe live together for a while before you make such a big commitment. We are living together, he said, casually dropping another bombshell. She moved into my place last month. That was certainly news to me. And Dad, he continued, I need to ask you something. You know how you always said you'd help with a wedding when the time came? Well, Claire and I have been looking at venues, and we found this perfect place on Maui. It's incredible. Right on the beach, sunset ceremony, the whole thing. Hawaii. I know it's far, he preempted, but Claire's always dreamed of a destination wedding. Her parents won't be there anyway. They're estranged. So it makes sense to just do it somewhere beautiful and intimate. Just close friends and family. I braced myself. How much? The venue alone is $30,000, he said. And with flights and accommodations for everyone, probably another $20,000. So $50,000 total. I know that's a lot, but Dad, you've always been so generous. And you said you'd help. $50,000 for a wedding on a beach in Hawaii. For a woman he'd known for merely 90 days. That's a significant amount of money, Nathan, I stated, trying to remain calm. I know, he pressed, but you can afford it, right? The restaurants are doing great. You just expanded into Victoria, and Claire and I are starting our lives together. This is important to us. There it was again. Claire and I, like they were one impenetrable unit now, and I was entirely outside, looking in. Let me think about it, I said, needing a moment to process. His face fell, visibly disappointed. Think about it, Dad. This is my wedding. This is one of the biggest days of my life. Are you seriously going to nickel and dime me right now? I'm not nickel and diming you, I corrected, trying to keep my voice even. I'm asking for time to consider how to best help you. There's a difference. He stood up abruptly, throwing a $20 bill on the table for his untouched sandwich. You know what? Forget it. Claire was right about you. Right about me? I felt a sharp pang. She said you'd be like this. She said you'd try to control everything. Make it about money instead of about us. I didn't believe her, but I guess she knows you better than I do. He just left. I sat there with my coffee going cold, wondering when my son had started listening to a woman he'd known for 3 months, instead of the father who'd raised him alone for 20 years. June only brought more tension. Nathan stopped answering my calls. I'd see them on his social media, seemingly living their best life. Rooftop dinners at outrageously expensive restaurants. Mine, of course, not included. Weekend trips to Seattle, Victoria, even Toronto. Claire's Instagram was a curated gallery of designer handbags, luxury hotel rooms, and champagne brunches. I tried to talk to him one more time in early July. I drove to his apartment in Yaletown, hoping to catch him before work. When he answered the door, Claire was right behind him, in a silk robe, looking utterly annoyed. Dad, you can't just show up like this. You won't return my calls, Nathan. What else am I supposed to do? Maybe take a hint? That stung more than I expected. Claire stepped forward, placing a hand possessively on Nathan's shoulder. Mr. Chen, I know you're concerned about Nathan, but he's an adult. He can make his own decisions. And frankly, your hovering is putting a strain on our relationship. My hovering? I repeated, incredulous. I'm his father. Exactly, she countered, her voice firm. You're his father, not his keeper. Nathan and I are building a life together, and we need space to do that without constant interference. Interference. I hadn't even been to dinner with them since the engagement because, as she put it, every time we see you, you lecture Nathan about money, about rushing things, about me. You've made it very clear you don't approve of our relationship. That's not true, I protested. I just think you think what? She cut me off, her eyes flashing. That I'm not good enough for your son? That I'm some kind of gold digger? The word hung in the air between us. I hadn't said it, but now that she had, it felt incredibly true. I think 3 months isn't long enough to know someone well enough to marry them, I stated plainly. We're not asking for your permission, Nathan said quietly, his voice devoid of warmth. We're getting married in August, Dad. With or without you? August. That was only 6 weeks away. We decided not to wait, he explained. Claire's dream venue had a cancellation, and we grabbed it. The wedding is August 14th, on Maui. We're sending invitations next week. Nathan, please slow down. Just think about this. I have thought about it, he insisted, his tone hardening. Claire is the best thing that's ever happened to me. She loves me for who I am, not for what I can give her. She doesn't judge me or try to control my choices. She supports my dreams. I support your dreams, I retorted, feeling my patience fray. No, Dad, you support your vision of my dreams. There's a difference. They closed the door then. I stood in that hallway for a long time, listening to the muffled sounds of other people's lives through the thin walls. Somewhere a dog barked. Someone was cooking bacon. Normal life continued, seemingly oblivious, while mine felt like it was falling apart. But I am not a man who gives up easily. You don't build a restaurant empire from a humble food truck without learning the true meaning of persistence. So, I did what any father would do. I tried to understand. I began researching Clare Westwood. It wasn't snooping, not really. It was due diligence. If my son was going to marry this woman, I needed to know who she truly was. Her social media was revealing, yet oddly sparse. Lots of photos, yes, but very few that went back more than a year. No tagged photos with family. No posts about childhood friends. Her employment history on LinkedIn was vague. Independent event coordinator. Lifestyle consultant. The kind of job titles that could mean anything or absolutely nothing. I called Greg Harrison, my lawyer. We'd gone to UBC together back in the 80s. If anyone could help me navigate this complex situation, it was Greg.
Robert, you can't investigate your son's fiancée, he cautioned me over lunch at Chen's kitchen.
That's a recipe for disaster. I'm not investigating, I clarified. I'm being cautious. Something just feels off about this whole situation, Greg. The rushed engagement, the exorbitant wedding, the way she's deliberately isolated him from me. Those are red flags, aren't they? I'll give you that, he admitted, cutting into his duck breast. But they could also just be a young woman in love who happens to have expensive taste and doesn't get along with her future father-in-law. My gut says there's more to it, I insisted. Your gut isn't admissible in court, he dryly remarked, then paused. But since you're asking, if you're really worried, there are ways to protect your assets. Have you updated your will recently? Not since Susan died, I told him. You should, he advised. And you might want to consider putting Nathan's inheritance in a trust with certain conditions. It's not unusual for wealthy parents to do that. Like what conditions? I asked, intrigued. Marriage counseling before the wedding, a prenup, financial disclosure. Hell, you could even require them to wait a year before accessing the funds. It's your money, Robert. You get to decide how it's distributed. I thought about that for a long time. A week later, the wedding invitation arrived. It was thick cardstock with elegant gold-embossed lettering. Expensive. Very expensive. The kind of invitation that probably cost $20 a piece to print. Mr. Robert Chen, cordially invited to the wedding of Nathan Chen and Clare Westwood. August 14th, sunset ceremony, Four Seasons Resort, Maui. There was a handwritten note tucked inside, purportedly from Nathan. His handwriting, yes, but the words felt wrong. Dad, I really hope you can make it. This day means everything to me, and it wouldn't be complete without you there. I know things have been tense, but Claire and I want you to be part of our celebration. Please say you'll come. Love, Nathan. I desperately wanted to believe it was genuine. I wanted to believe my son had truly written those words himself, that he genuinely wanted me there. But then, just 2 days later, I received the text that changed everything. Dad, I need you to respect my decision. Claire and I have decided it's best if you don't attend the wedding. She feels uncomfortable with your presence, and I need to put my wife first. Please understand. I called him immediately. No answer. I called again, straight to voicemail. I sent a text. Nathan, we need to talk. Please call me. Nothing. I sat in my office staring at that message, feeling something profound shift inside me. Not anger. Not yet. Something colder. Something calculating. If Nathan was going to push me out of his life, if this woman was going to take my son from me, then I needed to protect what I'd spent a lifetime building. For 20 years, I'd worked tirelessly to create something to leave to Nathan. A legacy, security, the kind of financial foundation that Susan and I never had. I wasn't going to let some stranger destroy all of that in 6 months. I called Greg again. I need you to draft some documents today, if possible. What kind of documents? He asked, sensing the gravity in my voice. I want to change the beneficiary on my life insurance policy. Remove Nathan. Add a charitable trust. I want to update my will. Put Nathan's inheritance in a restricted trust that he can't access until he's 40 or until certain conditions are met. And I want to revoke the power of attorney I gave him last year. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, Robert, are you sure about this? This is pretty drastic. I'm sure, I affirmed. Can you do it? Yes, he replied. But you should know. If Nathan finds out, this could permanently damage your relationship. He just uninvited me from his wedding, Greg, I stated flatly. I think the damage is already done. All right, he conceded. Give me until the end of business today. I'll have everything ready for your signature. I spent the rest of that afternoon in my office, not working, just thinking. Thinking about Nathan as a little boy, helping me prep vegetables in that very first food truck. Thinking about teaching him to ride a bike on the seawall. Thinking about the two of us sitting in the hospital cafeteria after Susan's funeral. Both of us too stunned to even cry. Where had that boy gone? At 5 o'clock, my phone rang. Nathan. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me, that unyielding father part that would always pick up when my child called, made me hit the green button. Dad? His voice sounded strange, tight. I'm here. Look, about the wedding. Claire and I talked and we think maybe we were hasty. You should come, but there are some conditions. Conditions. You need to apologize to Claire for the things you've implied about her. And you need to promise not to cause any drama at the wedding. No lectures about money or rushing things, just smile and be supportive. And if I don't agree to these conditions? I asked, my voice calm but my blood starting to boil. Then you're not welcome. Claire's been really hurt by your behaviour, Dad. She's been nothing but kind to you, and you've treated her like she's some kind of criminal. I wanted to laugh bitterly. Kind? The woman who'd systematically isolated my son from his only parent was kind? Nathan, I said, trying to cut through the noise. I need to tell you something. What? I love you. I will always love you. But I won't apologize for looking out for your best interests. My best interests, he scoffed. Dad, I'm an adult. I don't need you to look out for me. Maybe not, I conceded, but I need to look out for myself. What does that mean? It means I hope you and Claire are very happy together. And I hope I'm wrong about everything. But I'm not going to stand by and watch while you make decisions that could destroy the future you should have. You're talking in riddles, he accused. No, son, I said, my voice firm. I'm talking about reality. The wedding is in 3 weeks. I assume you'll still need the money you asked for. There was a pause. We were hoping you'd still help, he finally said, a hint of desperation in his voice. Yes, I'll pay vendors directly. Give me their contact information and I'll handle the bills. But I won't be writing any checks to you or Claire. Are you serious right now? You don't trust me with money. I trust you, Nathan, I corrected him. I don't trust her. He hung up. 20 minutes later, I got another text. You're not invited. Stay away from my wedding. We'll figure it out ourselves. I showed the message to Greg when he arrived with the papers. Jesus, Robert, he said, shaking his head. I'm sorry. Don't be, I told him, feeling a strange sense of clarity. This needed to happen. I signed everything. The new will, the trust documents, the power of attorney revocation, the life insurance change. By 6 o'clock, Nathan's inheritance was locked behind conditions that would take him years to meet. And if anything happened to me, he wouldn't see a penny until he was 40 years old. It felt like closing a door. Final. Irreversible. I went home to my empty house in West Vancouver, poured myself 2 fingers of scotch, and sat on the deck watching the sun set over the water. This house had seemed so big after Susan died. Now it felt even bigger. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Mr. Chen, this is Claire. I think we need to talk. Nathan is devastated. He loves you very much, and this situation is breaking his heart. Can we meet? Just the two of us. Maybe we can work this out." I stared at that message for a long time. Every instinct told me to delete it, to block the number, to simply walk away. But I texted back. "Tomorrow, Chen's kitchen, noon." She was 15 minutes late. I was already seated in the private dining room when she arrived, dressed in designer jeans and a silk blouse that probably cost more than my sous chef made in a week. "Mr. Chen, thank you for agreeing to meet." "I said noon," I stated, not bothering with pleasantries. "I apologize. Traffic was terrible." She sat across from me, folding her hands neatly on the table, as if we were entering a business negotiation, which I supposed we were. "I'll be direct," she said, her voice composed. "Nathan is miserable. He wants you at the wedding, but he also wants my support and approval right now. He feels like he has to choose between us." "He does," I replied simply. Her eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. "That's not fair to him." "Life isn't fair, Claire," I retorted, feeling a surge of old pain. "I learned that when my wife was killed by a drunk driver and I had to raise a son alone while building a business from nothing. Nathan learned it too, or at least he used to know it. Maybe you've made him forget." "I haven't made him forget anything," she said, her voice softening slightly. "I've made him happy. Happier than he's been in years. He told me he felt like he was living in your shadow, always trying to prove himself, always feeling like nothing he did was good enough." "That's not true," I said, but the words hit harder than I expected, because there was a grain of truth in them. Had I made Nathan feel inadequate? Had I pushed him so hard to be independent that he'd felt like he could never quite measure up? "I've only ever wanted him to be happy," I said, my voice softer now. "Then let him be happy," she urged. "Come to the wedding, support us, and maybe, just maybe, give us a chance to show you that we are good for each other." I studied her face intently. She was good. Very good. The right amount of emotion, the right words. But something was still off, something I couldn't quite place. "I'll think about it," I said, buying myself time. "That's all I ask." She stood, extending her hand across the table. "Thank you for listening, Mr. Chen. I know I'm not the daughter-in-law you imagined, but I do love your son. I promise you that." After she left, I sat in that empty dining room for another hour. James came in at some point, asked if I wanted lunch. I just waved him away. My phone rang. It was Greg. "You're not going to believe this," he said, his voice urgent. "Try me," I replied, my chest tightening with anticipation. "You know how you asked me to look into Clare Westwood? Well, I have a friend who's a private investigator. Top shelf, very discreet. I mentioned your situation to him, and he said he'd do some digging as a favour. Robert, he found something." My heart pounded. "What?" "Clare Westwood isn't her real name. It's a partial alias. Her birth name is Claire Mitchell, changed it legally about 5 years ago. And Robert, her mother's name is Sarah Mitchell." The room tilted. Sarah Mitchell. 10 years ago, Sarah Mitchell had owned a small restaurant in Gastown called the Copper Pot. We'd both bid on a contract to provide catering services for a major tech company's corporate events. Big money, a prestigious client, the kind of contract that could make a small restaurant viable or take a successful one to the next level. I got the contract.
My bid was lower, my track record stronger. Pure business. But Sarah's restaurant was struggling. The copper pot had been her late husband's dream, and she was barely keeping it afloat. Losing that contract was the final straw for her.
She closed 6 months later, declared bankruptcy. I heard through the restaurant community grapevine that she'd blamed me, that she'd told people I'd deliberately undercut her, that I'd used my connections to poison her reputation, that I'd destroyed her on purpose. None of it was true. But hurt people often need someone to blame.
Greg, are you telling me Claire is Sarah Mitchell's daughter?
Yes, he confirmed.
And there's more. Sarah Mitchell died 3 years ago. Suicide pills.
Claire found her. The scotch in my stomach turned to bitter acid. Does Nathan know? Unknown. But Robert, here's the thing. My PI found some additional information. Claire has been married before, twice actually. Both marriages ended in divorce within 2 years. Both ex-husbands were wealthy. Both paid significant settlements. Jesus Christ, I muttered, horrified. There's more, Greg continued, oblivious to my internal turmoil. Claire's been living under several different names over the past 5 years. Clare Westwood, Claire Roberts, Claire Hampton. She's got a pattern. Meet wealthy men, whirlwind romance, expensive wedding, quick marriage, then divorce. It's a con, Robert. A very sophisticated one. I couldn't breathe. Send me everything you have. Already did. Check your email. I opened my laptop with shaking hands. The file was extensive. Marriage certificates, divorce decrees, court documents, financial records, photos of Claire with 2 different men, both older, both clearly wealthy. And then, at the bottom of the file, something that made my blood run cold. A newspaper article from 3 years ago, a small local paper. Local woman found dead in apparent suicide. There was a photo. Sarah Mitchell standing in front of the copper pot in happier times. And next to her, a teenage Claire, maybe 17 or 18 years old. The resemblance was striking. But what truly caught my attention was Claire's expression. Not grief, not even neutral. She was looking at the camera with something that looked disturbingly like calculation. I forwarded everything to my personal email, then called Nathan. Straight to voicemail. Nathan, it's Dad. I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Please call me back. Then I called Greg. I need to see Nathan in person today. Can you help me? What are you going to do? He asked, a note of caution in his voice. Show him the truth. Robert, be careful. If you go in there throwing accusations around, you could push him further away. He's an adult. He might not believe you. I have to try, I said, my resolve firm. I drove to Nathan's apartment in Yaletown. Parked illegally, didn't care. Took the elevator to the 14th floor, knocked on his door. Claire answered. Her expression shifted from surprise to annoyance in a fraction of a second. Mr. Chen, this isn't a good time. I need to speak to Nathan. He doesn't want to talk to you. Let me hear that from him. She started to close the door. I put my hand on it, not pushing, just holding it open. Claire, or should I say Claire Mitchell? She froze for just a moment. Her mask slipped, and I saw something cold and sharp underneath. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Your mother was Sarah Mitchell, the copper pot, 10 years ago. Her face went white, then red. Get out! Not until I talk to my son. Nathan, she called over her shoulder, her voice laced with manufactured distress. Your father is here, and he's harassing me. Nathan appeared from the bedroom,
looking utterly exhausted. "Dad, what are you doing?" "Protecting you, Nathan. I need you to listen to me. I have information about Claire that you need to see."
"I don't want to hear it," he snapped, still half asleep and clearly irritated. "Her real name is Claire Mitchell. Her mother owned a restaurant that competed with mine 10 years ago. Claire has been married twice before, both times to wealthy men. This is a con, Nathan. She's been planning this from the beginning."
The words hung in the air like a grenade, each one detonating a piece of Nathan's carefully constructed reality. He looked at Claire, his eyes wide with dawning horror.
"Is this true?" "Don't listen to him, Nathan," Claire cried, attempting to recover. "He's making things up because he can't accept that you love me."
"Is your real name Claire Mitchell?" Nathan demanded, ignoring her. She hesitated. That hesitation, that fraction of a second of silence told him everything.
"Oh my God. Nathan, let me explain," she pleaded.
"Did your mother own a restaurant? Did she compete with my dad?"
"It's not that simple," she stammered.
"Did you change your name?"
"Yes," she whispered. "Have you been married before?"
Her silence was answer enough. Nathan sank onto the couch, head in his hands, utterly shattered. "This whole time, this whole thing, you knew who I was when we met, didn't you?"
"Nathan, answer the question," I pressed. "Yes."
Her voice was barely a whisper.
"I knew who you were."
"Why?" For the first time since I'd met her, Claire looked genuinely emotional. Tears welled in her eyes.
"Because your father destroyed my mother's life. She lost everything because of him. The restaurant, our home, our future. And when she couldn't take it anymore, she killed herself. I found her, Nathan. I was the one who found her body."
"So this was revenge," Nathan said, lifting his head, his voice filled with a terrible realization. "You were going to marry me to get back at my dad."
"At first, yes," she admitted, her voice cracking. "I wanted him to feel what it was like to lose everything. But then I got to know you, and I realized you were nothing like him. You were kind and sweet and genuine, and I thought maybe I could have both. Maybe I could fall in love with you and still make your father pay for what he did." "Make him pay how?" Nathan pressed, his eyes searching hers for an answer. She didn't respond.
Nathan looked at me, a silent question in his eyes. "Dad," I pulled up the documents on my phone, showing him the proof. "She's done this before, son. Twice."
"Married wealthy men, lived expensively for a year or two, then divorced them for significant settlements. I think the plan was to marry you, get access to your inheritance, then take you for everything you're worth." "That's not true!" Claire was crying now, truly crying. "I love you, Nathan, I do. Maybe it started as revenge, but it became real. You have to believe me."
"Get out," Nathan said quietly, his voice dangerously low.
"What?"
Claire asked, stunned. "Get out of my apartment. Now."
"Nathan, please."
"Get out!" The explosion made both of us jump. I'd never heard my son yell like that. Claire grabbed her purse and left without another word, the door slamming shut behind her. When the door closed, Nathan and I sat in silence for a long time, the weight of everything that had just happened pressing down on us. "I'm sorry," I finally said. "For what?" he asked, his voice raw. "You were right about everything." "I'm sorry I had to be right." He laughed, a broken, hollow sound.
6 months. I was going to marry her in 3 weeks. Dad, I almost let her. But you didn't,
I interrupted gently. That's what matters. How did you know? He asked, looking at me with red-rimmed eyes. Instinct, I explained. Something about her never felt genuine, and when you pushed me away, that just confirmed it. She was isolating you from the one person who would protect you. I said terrible things to you, he murmured, filled with remorse.
You were manipulated, I reassured him. That's what people like Claire do. They're very good at it. He looked at me, his eyes still red. Did you really change your will? Yes, I admitted. Good, he said, surprising me. You should protect yourself. I don't blame you. Nathan, you're still my son, I reminded him, my heart aching with love. Everything I have is still yours. It's just protected now, until you're older and wiser, and hopefully better at spotting con artists. He laughed again, this time a more genuine, albeit still fragile, sound. I'm an idiot. You're human, and you have a good heart, I told him, reaching out to place a hand on his shoulder. That's not a weakness, son. It's your best quality. You just need to be more careful who you give it to. We talked until late that night, about Claire, about Sarah Mitchell, about the wedding that wasn't going to happen. We even talked about his mother, and how much she would have loved to see him get married someday. To the right person. The next morning, I got a call from Greg. Your timing was perfect, he said, a note of satisfaction in his voice. The PI did some more digging. Claire has been booking flights to the Cayman Islands, one-way ticket, leaving the day after the wedding was supposed to happen. He also found evidence she's been liquidating assets, closing accounts, preparing to disappear. She was going to take the wedding money and run. That's what it looks like, Greg confirmed. Nathan would have been left with nothing but bills and a broken heart. I thought about calling the police, but I decided against it. Claire was gone and Nathan was safe. That was enough. The wedding was cancelled. Nathan called the vendors, explained the situation. Most were understanding. The venue kept the deposit, but that was a small price to pay for the peace of mind. Over the next few months, Nathan and I slowly, carefully rebuilt what Claire had tried to destroy. Our Sunday dinners resumed. He started coming by the restaurant after work again, sitting at the bar, telling me about his day. I think I want to quit my job, he said one evening in November. We were sharing a bottle of wine after closing time. Why? I asked, surprised. Because I've been thinking about what Claire said, about living in your shadow, and she was wrong about a lot of things. But maybe not about that. I've spent so much time trying not to be you that I never figured out who I actually want to be. What do you want to be? I asked, genuinely curious. I don't know yet, he admitted, looking thoughtful. But I think I need to figure it out. Maybe travel for a while, clear my head, figure out what makes me happy. That sounds like a good plan, I told him. Would you be okay with that, if I just took some time? Nathan, I'm always okay with you doing what's right for you, I said, a wave of warmth washing over me. I just want you to be careful. Trust your instincts, and remember that real love doesn't isolate you from the people who care about you. It brings you closer to them. He smiled, a genuine, easy smile I hadn't seen in a long time. When did you get so wise? When I became a father, I chuckled. It's amazing how smart you become when someone's depending on you to not screw up their life. We laughed together, and in that moment, everything felt right again. 3 months later, Nathan left for Southeast Asia. He's been gone for 2 months now, sending me photos from Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia. He looks happy, lighter, like he's finally figuring out who he is without anyone else's expectations weighing him down.
I still think about Claire sometimes.
I wonder if she ever really cared about Nathan at all, or if it was all just an elaborate performance. I wonder if she's moved on to her next target, her next mark. I wonder if she thinks about her mother, about the pain that drove her to seek revenge on a man who was just doing business. I hope she finds peace someday. Real peace, not the kind that comes from hurting other people. But mostly, I think about the lesson in all of this. Trust your instincts, protect what matters, and never apologize for being cautious with your heart or your wallet. Because in the end, the people who truly love you will understand, and the people who don't understand were never worthy of your trust in the first place. My name is Robert Chen. I'm 62 years old. I own 4 restaurants. I've earned 2 Michelin stars, and I've raised a son alone for 20 years. I've made mistakes, plenty of them, but uninviting a con artist from my son's life wasn't one of them. And if you're reading this, if you're in a similar situation, let me tell you something important. It's okay to be protective. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to trust your gut when something feels fundamentally wrong. Because sometimes the hardest part of loving someone is protecting them from their own blind spots. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give your child is showing them that not everyone who says they love them actually does. Love should add to your life, not subtract from it. It should bring you closer to your family, not drive a wedge between you. And if someone is asking you to choose between them and everyone else who cares about you, that's not love. That's control. My son knows that now. It cost him 6 months and a broken heart to learn it. But he knows it. And that knowledge is worth more than any inheritance I could ever leave him.